Tell us your name, your rank at separation, and where you now live.
My name is Don Zeller, and I was a captain in the Marine Corps when I got out in 1974, and I live in Louisville, Kentucky.
Beautiful town, beautiful town.
Lovely town.
When did you join the Corps?
I joined in 1968 when I graduated from college. I'd gone through college on a ROTC scholarship. So Uncle Sam paid for my college, and I had a 4-year commitment. Because of that, I had an opportunity to choose whether between going into the Navy or going into the Marine Corps while I was in college, and chose to go into the Marine Corps.
So it was an NROTC?
NROTC, right.
Where were you in school?
At I was in school at University of Louisville.
So Kentucky boy all around?
I've been born, weaned, and raised in Louisville, Kentucky.
That's good, that's good. Tell us how your parents reacted when they found out you're going to the Corps.
My parents were delirious that I got a scholarship to go to college, and so was I. And I don't recall that they had any specific reaction when I told them that I decided to go in the Marine Corps as opposed to the Navy. It was just a matter of they knew that I had a military commitment, and one was as good as the other to them.
Just an aside, would you kindly cut this out? My mother, this little tiny Irish woman, when she found out that I'd signed up at 17 and a half, she cranked her hand back as far as she could get it. She was about the size of so many of me as hard as she could. Go ahead, forward. All right, tell us about your first. Tell me what it felt like to come on base the first time, getting ready to get trained.
Well, when I graduated from the University of Louisville, I was commissioned as second lieutenant. I was sent to Quantico, Virginia, for the officers' basic school, which started about a month later. In I think it was the day after the 4th of July in 1968. It was a 5-month training program. We got out, somewhere, I want to say around the first week of December. And in the last week or two, everybody got their orders and found out what military occupation they had been assigned.
What did you put in for?
I put in for nothing but aviation. And I got aviation. So I was, along with 9 other members of my class, we were sent to Army Flight School. Normally
Which one?
There was just one. It was Army Helicopter Flight School. Normally the Marine Corps does their aviation training at Pensacola through the Navy. But at that time, at the beginning of '69, and I think they had started it in 1968, there was such a demand for aviators in Vietnam that the Navy couldn't put enough Marine Corps aviators through their training program to satisfy the Marine Corps' demand. So the Marine Corps sent some officers for training with the Army for straight helicopter training, and some officers to the Air Force for straight fixed-wing training. Plus, they still had their complement of officers that they sent to Pensacola.
Did you choose helos as opposed to fixed-wing, or?
No, I did not choose helos as opposed to fixed-wing. That was chosen for me by the Marine Corps.
When the choice was made for you, how'd that feel?
I don't recall giving it much thought at the time, but I came to thoroughly enjoy it. The Army helicopter training was really nice, And as a small group of just 10 Marine Corps officers, and there was a class of maybe 30 or 40 Army commissioned officers, plus any number, and I don't know how many, maybe 40 or 50 Army warrant officer candidates, but there was no contact between the warrant officer candidates and the commissioned officers.
How did they keep you separated? By billet or what?
Excuse me. Well, none of the commissioned officers lived on post.
Okay.
The warrant officer candidates all had to live in barracks.
Were you single at the time?
Yes, I was single at the time. So another Marine and I lived in a trailer down in Texas for the 4 months that we were there. After that, I got married, and we were transferred to Savannah, Georgia for advanced helicopter training, still in the Army. And
Resume.
we were sent to Hunter Army Airfield.
Put it on. Rolling.
So we got to Savannah at Hunter Army Airfield sometime in, let's see, June of 1969, and finished up that program, I believe sometime in October, if I'm not mistaken. It was total of 8.5 or 8 months, 3 weeks from the beginning to the end.
Is that ball? Oh, yeah, you can hear it. Let's go forward. Tell me one thing. I meant to ask you this a minute ago before that last ring. What were you training in?
The specific type of helicopter?
Yeah.
I recall that the first helicopter that we trained in the Army at Fort Walters, Texas, which was in beautiful downtown Mineral Wells, about 70 miles west of Dallas,
I've been there.
was the H-23 helicopter. And if I'm not mistaken, I flew that the whole time that I was in Texas. Then when we went to Savannah, we had instrument training, and we trained in the H-13 helicopter. And then we had tactics training, and we trained in the Huey helicopter, and that was it. Those were the 3 helicopters we trained in until we graduated from the Army Flight School.
I don't really know aviation as well, but as I remember from just sort of looking and reading, there was a massive difference in the weight of the Huey and the others, wasn't there?
I'm sorry, there's what?
A weight difference in the Huey and the others. Is this the purpose?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
The Huey is a much heavier helicopter than the other training helicopters. It's designed to carry 9 or 10 passengers, and the other helicopters that we trained in were just 2-seat helicopters, 2 pilots side by side, no other passengers at all.
You transitioned to what you ended up flying. What was that like? The dual rotors and stuff.
Yeah, it was not a problem. It's just transitioning from the Huey to the CH-46. We were sent to the Marine Corps Air Station at New River, North Carolina, in Jacksonville, just south of Cherry Point Marine Corps Air Station, and real close to Camp Lejeune. And as far as being a pilot, it was just another helicopter. I mean, a helicopter is a helicopter. The size really doesn't affect how it flies. So it was just a matter of learning the various capabilities of it, getting used to the size as far as where you could land, where you couldn't land. You could go a lot faster in that helicopter than you could in the ones that we had flown before. And we had about 5 months of transition training in that. And then they sprung us loose and gave us orders to go to Vietnam.
Any horror stories about when you were training or soloing or anything like that?
Can't remember a thing. Everything seemed to go just according to Hoyle in New River.
From the point of finishing training in New River till you were deployed, what were you doing?
I was home on leave in between leaving New River
Louisville?
in Louisville.
Did you get to see the Kentucky Derby and during that period of time?
No. In fact, I didn't get to see the Kentucky Derby because the Derby is the first Saturday in May.
And you deployed?
And I left Louisville sometime around the middle of April.
Damn, they
to
just
go
got you
to.
all around.
But I got my share of derbies in
Since then.
while I was in college. Yeah, well before I started Marine Corps training.
So when you landed in country, tell me your thoughts. What happened?
When I landed in country, it was no big deal. This was, I really didn't know what to think. I was kind of a blank slate. It was beginning of May of 1970. Nothing had been going on, and for all intents and purposes, not much happened the entire 12 months I was there to speak of. Certainly compared to the horror stories that you've heard that happened in years prior to that, and by the same token, horror stories that happened in other areas of Vietnam at the same time. It just, things weren't that bad in the area where the Marines were working as they were in other parts of Vietnam during that time period.
As a lawyer, I'm going to ask for specificity. What does that bad mean? As all things are relative, talk to me about relativity.
As far as that bad, I flew for 12 months in Vietnam. I recall being shot at twice. Once was at night, because I knew, because I could see some tracers, but we were high enough to where the rounds couldn't have possibly gotten to us. And one other time on a mission, we had landed, we'd dropped some troops off on the ground, and a Vietnamese apparently was in a hole, a covered hole underneath our aircraft, under the aircraft, uncovered the hole, put 12 rounds of ammunition into the bottom of the aircraft, and then covered himself back up. And I think it might have cut one oil line in the aircraft. Didn't hurt anybody. We flew back to the air base, got another helicopter, went out and finished the mission. And during 12 months, those are the only two incidents that I ever encountered.
We're going to pursue this, but that your hellhole wasn't open at the time then, obviously. It didn't come inside the cockpit or the fuselage.
Oh, they pierced the fuselage.
But I'm saying your gates weren't open, where you dropped stuff, where you just put down the lines and stuff.
They may well have been. Basically, my understanding was the Viet Cong or whatever he was just took his weapon and went from the front to the back and sprayed some rounds of ammunition. Nobody was there. Everybody was on the sides of the aircraft.
Were you doing the normal rotation from medevac to ejection to insertion to that sort of thing?
Yeah, as far as normal rotation, every squadron got rotated missions every day. Nobody had a set mission that they did every single day. And within a squadron, You might do resupply one day, admin another day, medevac another day, standby another day. And then when I was there were 3 different CH-46 squadrons, and some of the missions would be rotated amongst those 3 squadrons. And then eventually, during the time that I was there, one of those CH-46 squadrons left, and then the other CH-46 squadron left. Oh, I take that back. There were 4 squadrons there when I first got there. But eventually it just got down to where we were the last squadron there. Because there was just no war anymore.
Winding down.
Yeah. So we left in May of 1971. We were the last CH-46 squadron in Vietnam.
What'd that feel like? Tell me what that felt like when you knew.
Well, I left about 3 weeks before the squadron did because my time was up. And it just seemed like, well, it's okay. It's kind of fun. Had a good time. I did. I had a blast.
Tell me about your R&R.
I had a great time.
Any R&R?
I did tell you, I had one R&R. I had gotten there the beginning of May and saved my R&R till Christmas time, and I was married at the time. So I met my wife in Hawaii, and normally R&Rs were for 7 days, but because of the time it took to get to Hawaii, it was 1 day over and 1 day back, so it ended up only being a 5-day R&R. And while we were there, the sun never came out the entire time. It was just that time of the year. It was bad time for Hawaii. So, I mean, we did some traveling, went from, did a little island hopping, but it was totally overcast the entire 5
I
days.
suspect you stayed in out of the rain, didn't you?
We did a little staying in and out of the rain, yeah. Yeah. We didn't miss too many opportunities.
Tell me, at the time when you first went in, were there any, while you were there, any favorite songs, any favorite films, any favorite movie stars, any favorite anything like that?
I don't remember so much as far as favorite films, but as favorite songs, there were certainly 2 favorite songs: "Proud Mary" and "Detroit City." And yep, those were the songs that would get everybody roused up every time they were played. I mean, we had a hopping officers club, and we would have floor shows from around the Western Pacific area, mostly Filipino, some Japanese, very occasionally, almost rarely, an American floor show.
That's interesting.
But with all the squadrons we had there, we had like cafeteria type tables that they would put, and we had a stage, and they would just put like 3 or 4 cafeteria tables away from the stage for each squadron that was assigned. And there were, 300 or 400 officers in the officers club for the floor shows, and they got pretty rowdy. And if a group started playing either one of those 2 songs, the place went nuts.
That's great.
Yeah.
What about USO visits? Can you remember any of those?
I do not recall a USO visit.
You never went to one? You never went to a floor show or anything like that?
I never went to a USO show that wasn't at Marble Mountain, the air facility I was at. And I don't recall a USO show ever coming to Marble Mountain.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, we flew a lot of the people around. When the USO show would come into Vietnam, we would fly the show itself out to the troops.
Did you get to stay there with them?
No, I never did.
That's a dirty trick.
I never did. But we would fly the show, and sometimes I guess we would fly troops to the show. But I never saw a show myself, like a Bob Hope show or anything like that. And I don't know that they were ever in the area, to tell you the truth. I don't recall any publicity about one.
I never saw one in 9 years, so you know, don't be bad. I guess the other thing is I would ask is, can you think of, you know, my best day and my worst day?
I can remember a worse day, and it wasn't dangerous by any means, but another pilot and I don't recall his name, we were assigned just a resupply mission all day long. We were just going from point to point to point to point, pick up something here, drop it there, go here, drop there. Mostly external loads where you would, they would put it on your cargo hook, and you'd pick it up in a cargo net, take it somewhere, drop it off, pick up another one, take it somewhere else. And the radio that we used to talk to the people on the ground, an FM radio, has a function called a squelch, which is basically used to allow you to receive something a little farther away. But when you're not talking, it makes a huge rushing sound, like whoosh. So you tune the squelch down to the point where the rushing sound stops. The squelch on my radio was broken. All I had was rushing sound for 6 solid hours of flying. Never got out of the helicopter. We didn't get out to refuel. They just refueled us while we were sitting in there. We ate lunch in the helicopter. After a while, I would have to take the helmet off just to get rid of the noise. And when I took the helmet off to get rid of the rushing noise, then you had the transmissions right over your head that were going whee. So that was the choice for 6 solid hours, which is a lot of minutes in a row. I was never so happy to be done with a mission in my life. That, by far and away, was my worst mission.
What was your last mission like?
Don't have a clue. I don't have a clue.
How short time were you then?
I don't have a clue how short I was when I stopped flying. Probably a few days, but I really don't remember.
Anything else you want to tell? We may have been the only squadron there at the time. Well, you were the last. You told me so.
Yeah, I'm not sure if. I'm pretty sure we were the only squadron there when I came back. So you pretty much had to use a lot of your officers to fly, because there still were some missions that had to be run.
Yeah.
So you couldn't afford to let people just not fly. But as you got to within, single digits of days left, yeah, you got a little bit of opportunity to take time off. So I may not have flown in the last 10 days, but I may have flown. I just don't recall. Yeah. There just weren't very many missions left to be flown.
You went to law school on the GI Bill?
Yes. Yeah, I went to law school at the University of Louisville. I started in September of 1974.
On the GI Bill?
Correct.
What did you do between your separation and starting law school?
There was only 2 months. But I got out in the end of June of 1974 and started law school at the beginning of September.
So you'd already taken your LSATs before you ever got out?
Right. I took my LSATs before I got out of college. And I was accepted into law school based on those tests,
Good.
right, which was like 6 years prior.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was nice not having to take those again after not having done any education for 6 years.
Did you think about staying in reserves and being a JAG or anything like that?
Well, I thought about staying in the reserves. I did stay in the reserves. And I was in the Marine Corps Reserve for maybe 3 years. I was in a volunteer training unit where we got points for being in the reserve. We didn't get any pay. And then after that, there was an Army Reserve outfit at the airport that was only 10 minutes from my house that had 2 Hueys. And I signed up with them as a Marine Corps captain. They made me a captain in the Army, and I flew with them for 16 years. So with my 6 years of active duty, I ended up retiring with 22 years of service.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're not supposed to hear me. You're not supposed to hear me. I thought that's great.
So yeah, now I'm a retired Army major.
Sir. All right. Thank you. Anything else you want to tell us?
You're very welcome. Hoorah.
Hoorah. Okay.
Thanks for y'all's help.